Welcome, everyone. I'm John Ryan for SportsMemo.com, and thank you very much for joining us for the Full Count Major League Baseball show for Thursday, July the 7th, 2022. We got three big games on the card for tonight, starting with the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox, which I personally cannot wait to attend. You may see in the background that, it kind of looks like Fenway there. Yeah, and I'm gonna watch all four of these games and try not to get in any arguments with Yankee fans. I'm a pretty well behaved guy. Jesse Schule and Eric Pauly are in the house, so we have two of the best guys from SportsMemo.com on this show. Jesse, welcome to the show. First and foremost, how are things over at SportsMemo.com going for you? And anything hot right now? I know your trends have been out of sight. Good.
Yeah, well, a perfect 10-0 over the 4th of July weekend was pretty hot, you might say. So everything's sort of running hot right now. I did lose that streak yesterday, though. I had one game and it came up empty, but we're looking to get back on track here today.
That's quite the run. 10-0 is nothing to sneeze at for sure. Eric Pauly, you've had similar streaks to that. How are things going for you now?
Yeah, things are going great. I had an 8-2 run to finish off the month of June and finished up over 30 units for my clients in the month of June, which was good for second in all of Sports Memo. Took off the weekend of the 4th, had to kind of recharge the batteries. Was back yesterday with a 5% play and cashed for a 10-0 perfect run on my 5% game of the weeks this season. So we're still running hot. We're not slowing down and looking forward to a great show today.
Awesome stuff. Yours truly won a 5% max in Major League Baseball last night, playing under in the Braves-Cardinals game, which was a 3-0 victory by the Braves. It couldn't have gone better than I wanted it to. It was almost like I saw the game before it happened with the use of all the models and the data. That brings me to 6-0 over the last 12 months in Major League Baseball, 5% top-rated bet. So I'm very grateful for that. And looking forward to a great show with you guys. So without further ado, let's get rolling. And this is it, guys. I mean, this is where the rubber meets the road. And if Boston's going to make a run at these Yankees or solidify themselves as a playoff contender, they're number one right now in the wild card race, but trailing the Red Sox by double digits in the win-loss column in the division, they're going to have to do it this series. There's 4 games, and it starts out tonight, and Boston will be absolutely rocking whenever the Yankees come in town. It's truly probably the biggest rivalry in all of sports. Garrett Cole's on the hill for the Yankees, 7-2, 2.99 ERA, going up against a relatively unknown guy, Josh Winkowski, 3-2, with an ERA of 3.12. I'm going to tell you guys flat out right now, and I did this with Joe D'Amico earlier today on his first family show. I have the Red Sox for the series. I don't care what Joe D'Amico says about the Yankees. He's talking with his heart. But no, seriously, he had some really good analytics backing it up as well. But I think the Red Sox take 3 out of 4 here. And the Red Sox have Chris Sale coming back pretty soon. And that is going to be a big addition to this team. And I definitely think the Red Sox will be seen in the playoffs as a wild card berth member. So in this matchup, take it away, Jesse, and tell us where you're going to go with your money on this matchup.
Well, John, first of all, you mentioned Chris Sale coming back. I don't know if you saw the latest video from the minors. That might not be a positive thing. He was a little upset with his last start. But I'm looking at the Red Sox. They've cooled off, lost 6 of their last 9. The Yankees had lost 2 in a row until yesterday. Their bats exploded for 16 runs in Pittsburgh. We got warm air blowing out at Fenway. Could be a bit of a slugfest despite the pitching matchup. Garrett Cole, as you mentioned, 7-2, 2.99 ERA. He is living up to expectations this season. You can't really say anything too negative about Cole. He's been on fire lately. The one thing I will mention about Cole, though, is he hasn't pitched at Fenway yet this year. Last year, he was 1-2 with a 6.19 ERA in 3 starts at Fenway. So with the warm air, with the wind blowing out, that could be a concern for him. And then you got Josh Winkowski, 3-2, 3.12 ERA. That sounds great, but he's given up 17 hits and 5 walks in 14.2 innings at Fenway in his limited time there. I think he's been getting it done with smoke and mirrors a little bit. That 3.12 ERA looks a little bit better than it probably should. And the over is 13-5 in the Yankees' last 18 series openers. I really do like the over here.
Yeah, I like the over myself, and I'll tell you the Josh Winkowski situation here. What I like about him and where the Yankees have struggled is when they face a sinking ball style of pitcher that has heavy late movement. And guess what type of sinker this guy throws? He throws it 44% of the time. He'll mix in a cutter and a straight four seam fastball, along with just a couple off speed pitches highlighted by his slider, but he has that first pitch strike capability. Uh, his average launch angle, again, limited sample size, but still it's enough for me to be satisfied with, is 3 degrees. And that tells me that he's generating a lot of worm burners as opposed to fly balls. And to your point, Jesse, that ball is going to be carrying a mile at Fenway tonight. If he keeps the ball down on the lower half of these Yankee bats, I think he's going to get it done. I could see him going more than 5 innings. Let's turn it over to Eric here and see what he's got going with his money in this matchup.
Yeah, so I'm actually kind of reading this game the same way that Jesse is, except we do have different variations of a similar bet, actually, and I'll get into that in just a second. But looking at both these teams, and of course, this is not the first time they're facing off this season. They played a series very early in the year, and the Yankees won that series 2-1. But all three of those games were very, very close. I mean, playoff atmosphere in April. Looking at Garrett Cole, something that Jesse mentioned that I think is really important is that not only has he not been great at Fenway as a Yankee, he's also just been a little bit worse on the road. I'm not going to go out and say Garrett Cole's been bad on the road because he's still been a very good pitcher for most pitcher standards. But on the road this season, he's gone 42.2 innings. His ERA bumps up to a 3.8. His slugging percentage against is at a 388. His whip goes up to a 1.20, and his fielding independent of pitching, which over the course of the season is a 3.42, which is a great number, goes all the way up to a 4.35. Cole also has a higher strikeout percentage on the road, but also a higher walk percentage. So I can anticipate a lot more base runners. The Red Sox with the 761 OPS at home, that's the fifth best in baseball. You know these teams are always juiced and amped up to play each other. So I think that Cole may have a little bit of issues facing the Red Sox this time around. Looking at Winkowski, like we mentioned, the 3-2 record, the 3.12 ERA. He actually has a 2.96 FIP, which is actually very impressive, but with such minimal starts, he has 5 starts. He's 2-1 at home. It's hard to really make something meaningful of that number. His last 3 outings allowed 4 runs and on 19 hits over 18 innings of work. He gets hit around a lot more the second time through the order also. The Yankees have a 774 OPS on the road, which is the best in baseball. So while Jesse's going with the over, that's something I would definitely co-sign. I'm actually looking at the first 5 innings over. I think the Red Sox have the capabilities of getting to Cole early. I don't think Winkowski is as advertised. I think the Yankees can surely get to him as well. So I'm looking at potentially a bunch of runs being scored prior to the end of that 5th inning.
Yeah, I like it quite a bit. There's a lot of systems too that are backing the Red Sox in this game tonight, and a lot of it has to do with the value. I think that the Yankees now they've outscored their opponents by 159 runs per game, and they're steamrolling everybody. Occasionally they get no hit. Occasionally they lose as a 330 favorite to the Pittsburgh Pirates, but then that's offset by defeating them the very next day, being yesterday 16-0. But they do have those kinks in the armor, I think. And I guess we're going to find out whether I'm right or wrong this weekend over this 4-game series. And I still maintain I like that series bet with Boston to take 3 of the 4. And I know that is a reach. But if I do that over the course of a season with this kind of value that I'm getting, I know that there's a very strong likelihood I'm going to have extra cabbage to run around with and have fun. So let's move on to the next game here. And that is the Arizona Diamondbacks are hosting the Colorado Rockies. And this matchup is a National League West divisional rivalry, if you can call it that. They're 4th and 5th, respectively, in the National League West. Austin Gomer is on the hill, 4-7, 6.53 ERA. Good thing he's not pitching in Coors tonight. They are on the road at Arizona. Dallas Keuchel I don't know what to figure about him either. 0-1 ERA, 9.64. Gents, when I see two pitchers with ERAs that are in the stratosphere like this at this point of the season, I immediately start thinking under. It's only a lean, but I'm just kind of wondering what you guys think. Let's start out with Eric Pauly here and see what he's going to do with his money in this matchup.
Yeah, so that's a great point, John. So looking at this matchup, the over-under set at 9.5, if I'm not mistaken, and looking at pitchers with such high ERAs, of course, I guess a more square way to think about it would be to immediately take the over. You have two bad pitchers, and spoiler alert, maybe I'm in the wrong this side, and maybe this is a not as sharp of a bet as I would like it to be, but I am looking at the over for this game. And I can only imagine what this total would have been if this game was actually at Coors, but the Rockies coming off of getting swept by the Dodgers. They're 4-6 in their last 10. D-backs beating the Giants 2-1 in that series. The Giants are on a free fall. We'll get to them later, but they're 5-5 in their last 10. The regular season series is tied 3-3 between these teams, with each team going 2-1 at home. Colorado 7-11 on the run line as a favorite. Arizona is actually 38-26 on the run line as an underdog, which is a pretty impressive considering kind of how mediocre of a baseball team they are. But looking at Austin Gomber, I mean, John just outlined those stats, and nothing about the advanced analytics are going to say he's a great pitcher. His last three starts, has allowed 11 runs, 20 hits, and 16.1 innings pitched. And his road splits are always going to look a little bit better because his home field is Coors Field. But he still has a 6.42 ERA away from Coors. Opponents have a 4.12 slugging percentage. His FIP actually gets better at 3.94, but his whip is as high as a 1.31. He strikes out a lot of batters earlier in the game, the first time through the batting order, but nothing really about his game inspires confidence. And the D-backs at home, 651 OPS, which is second to last, and 666 OPS against left-handed pitching. And Keuchel, though, he's just not much better. He's with the Twins and, the White Sox, and of course was moved to Arizona due to how poorly he was performing. In his two starts with Arizona, he's allowed 11 runs on 12 hits and 9.1 innings of work. Again, just flat-out bad numbers. Season 8.27 ERA, 2.10 whip, and 5.75 FIP. Again, all abysmal. There's not a ton of data on him, of course, in the Arizona jersey, so it's only been two starts. The Rockies have one of the worst OPS on the road, but they are actually the best team in the MLB against lefties. Like I said earlier, the over seems kind of square because, again, two pitchers, such high ERAs, you would anticipate saying the over all the time, and 9.5 actually is not that high of a total for an over. Again, I'd love to have seen what this matchup would have been if it was out of Coors. I think we'd be looking at like a 13.5 total. But for that reason, actually, is why I'm going with the over 9.5 for this game.
I like it, Eric. Question for you. Over the last 7 days, Colorado's not been hitting all that well, 4.3 runs per game, 231 batting average. And as you said, they do well against the left-handed starters. But the Jekyll and Hyde nature of this team, and I do mean that respectfully, between their home games at Coors and the road where they're scoring 2.9 runs per game, 233 batting average, and just an unbelievably horrid 289 on base percentage. You have any tips and strategies that you use when the Rockies are on the road like this that enable you to give the team perhaps a different power rating or something?
So that's a great question. You definitely, especially with a team like the Rockies, where the home field is certainly one of the biggest, if not the flat-out biggest advantage in baseball. You certainly have to adjust your power rankings with the Rockies going on the road, just whether or not whoever they're playing. I mean, they're 12-26 away from Coors. That kind of speaks for itself. But I kind of try to identify or take a dive into each matchup in its own individual sense. So, of course, we're taking into consideration how these pitchers are pitching, how the hitters are doing, how the lineups, how the managers have been calling the games. But I'm not frequently changing how I'm going about capping the game. I will, of course, consider the fact that the Rockies are worse on the road. But again, looking at how they do against left-handed pitching, whether they're at home or on the road, they mash and they lead the MLB. Keuchel and Gomber, they're just really allowing way too many runs. Whips over two, close to two for Keuchel, close to two for Gomber. That's a great question. Something that you should certainly do, and I do in handicapping. But when looking at this matchup kind of in a vacuum, I'm still leaning toward that over.
Very good. Good stuff. Let's go over to Jesse Schule now and see if he agrees or if he has a different angle here he wants to throw his money at.
Well, let me tell you, John, Eric Pauly is relatively new here at SportsMemo. And I just want to say for all you guys that don't know him very well, this guy's a sharp handicapper, and I know that because he sounds a lot like me. Um, Actually, it sounds like he was reading right off my sheet with his last analysis. I concur with everything Eric said. One thing that Eric said, though, was I wonder what the total would be if they were playing at Coors. Well, you don't have to wonder for very long, Eric, because they played at Coors last week, and it was the same pitching matchup. And the total, I believe, in that game was 11 and a half. It did go to 12 before game time. And Keuchel got rocked. He gave up 4 runs in the first inning. The Rockies won that game 11-7, and I did bet on that game, and it played out exactly how I expected it to. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Keuchel has been bad all year long. I don't believe he's had a positive start in quite some time, and as bad as Gomber has been, he hasn't been just crushed to the same level as Keuchel. So I'm gonna lean toward the Rockies here rather than a play on the over, just fading Keuchel.
I like it quite a bit, Jesse. I think fading Keuchel is a good move if you're going to bet this game for sure. The bullpens have been just absolutely terrible recently. They haven't been good bullpens all season. Jesse, does that bring any like in-game betting? I'm thinking here, you don't bet it pre-flop. You see how the starters are looking. Maybe the pitch count is running up more than 6 pitches per batter, for example, or maybe they're just getting hit and hit hard. Is it worth waiting, knowing that the bullpens are so bad that if it does get out to a slower start in terms of the scoreboard, it's an opportunity to bet it then? Or if the starters get hammered, you just go with the over, even if it's at 11 runs. What do you think?
Well, if you like Arizona, it's probably worth waiting because if Keuchel gets out of the first inning and then the second inning, you're already off and running because the chances of him doing that are not looking good right now. If you like the Rockies, though, you're kind of counting on Keuchel getting rocked and rocked early, and that's what's been happening every time he's gone out there of late. And there's no reason to expect a different result here today.
Yeah, I'm thinking like 75% pre-flop on the over, and then if it doesn't go according to plan like that and Keuchel is getting them out, then add the 25% at a lower price. But good stuff. Let's move on to our third and final game here. And this is a big showdown. It's another one. It's just a tremendous next 4 days in Major League Baseball, in my humble opinion. We have the Giants taking on the Padres, National League West second best team, going against the third best team. Logan Webb is on the hill, 7-3, 3.13 ERA. Joe Musgrove, reigning Cy Young Award winner, 8-2 with a 2.25 ERA. The San Diego Padres, 11 games over 500. The Giants, and I believe their age is starting to catch up to them, guys. They're 2 games over 500 at 41-39. It seems to be a series that San Fran is much in the same position as the Red Sox, and they pretty much, to make a run at this thing down the second half of the season and after the All-Star break, are going to look to take 3 out of 4 here, but they're coming off a 6-game losing skid with a win last night to stop that. I just don't know if they have it. I initially lean here with Musgrove, certainly, but I don't really feel comfortable laying minus 150 wood. Let's start with Jesse Schule and see what he's got for us.
Well, John, I think you said it when you said the Giants are perhaps out of it. They lost 6 of their last 7. They've been playing terrible lately. 10.5 games back. I really can't see them contending for the division any longer. The Padres have also been losing lately. They've lost 5 of their last 6. But the good news is they do have Manny Machado back in the lineup. And with Musgrove on the mound, he's 8-2, 2.25 ERA. He allowed 3 runs on 5 hits with 10 strikeouts in 7 innings in a 3-1 loss to the Dodgers his last time out. You can't fault a guy for going 7 innings and striking out 10 in a 3-1 loss. Logan Webb has been good, 7-3, 3.13 ERA. He allowed 1 run on 4 hits in 8 innings in a win over San Diego earlier this year. That being said, I just think San Diego's the better team with the better pitcher. They're at home. As bad as San Francisco is playing right now, I can't back San Francisco. I'm going to have to go with the Padres here.
Yeah, I like that too. San Diego is also, for what it's worth, 32-13 on the money line when facing a National League opponent with a team batting average of 245 or lower on the season. These trends were something a couple years ago, 3 years ago even, but batting averages based on team batting averages is so, and you know what I'm going to say, pathetic. It is pathetic what the teams are batting at. And backing up to the Boston Red Sox matchup, that's a team that's number one in doubles. They hit about half as many home runs as the Yankees do, which is 1.7 per game. The Yankees do. I'll take the team with the hits to doubles, moves the runners, not afraid to hit behind them. And I think San Diego is becoming that team. And if they get Tatis back anytime in the next 30, 60 days, they might be a team down the stretch that'll have to be reckoned with in the National League for sure. It's not going to be the Dodgers or the Mets running away with it. Anyway, let's go over to Eric Pauly here and see what he's going to do with his money on this matchup.
Yeah, so I actually really like that last point you were making, John, those last 2 points. So, number one, I mean, you want to talk about pathetic offense. I know we have two very solid pitchers going, Musgrove, in that borderline elite tier for this season, but the total's at 6.5 runs. I mean, that's a very low total, especially with two teams that are not bottom of the barrel teams that are over 500 and are teams that win. Looking at the Padres also, is very underrated how they begun the season on one of the best winning. They had one of the best winning percentages in the history of their franchise, and now they're 2-8 in their last 10 and are kind of free falling because they cannot get that offensive output going. But just something to consider is in general with gambling. I mean, not every game on the board you're going to be able to find a fantastic edge on, and this is just one of those matchups where it's a hard game to handicap. You don't want to catch a falling knife with either of these teams. San Francisco's 3-7 their last 10. Again, Padres 2-8. Padres lead the season series 4-2. Something that did stick out to me is that looking at how the market values these two teams. So the Giants are 13-5 against the spread on the run line as a underdog, while the Padres, who came to the season with some higher expectations, of course, Tatis has been around, and they haven't fully disappointed because, they're in second place in the NL West with a 47-36 record, but they kind of have been disappointing how they've performed over the last 2 weeks or so. The Padres, are just 22-32 against the run line as a favorite this season, meaning that the market is giving them some respect and they're just not giving it back because they're losing these games that they are favorites in, but they're not covering that run line, only winning by 1 run. Musgrove finally beginning to regress a bit, which we spoke about actually 2 shows ago, and Jesse called that against the Phillies, saying this is the time for it, and boy, was he right. Only 3 runs in his last start, which isn't horrible, but after that 6 runs allowed against the Phillies. Webb has been doing well. The Padres are not hitting the ball well whatsoever. I'm going to lean on the San Francisco Giants on the run line. The only little bit of a hesitancy here is that number is going to be around -180. I would not say that this is as high as even a 2% bet, but just given on how the Giants have been doing on the season as underdog against the spread, against that run line, I'm going to lean toward the Giants with that +1.5 today.
Yeah, I like that play as well. You might, again, in game, you might be able to play both what Jesse's saying with the Padres and then be able to get this run line too. If the Padres would get out to a decent start. But supporting your play, Kapler, the skipper for the Giants, he's 14-7 after losing 3 of his last 4 games. And those kind of stats stick to me because if you're a playoff team like they were last year and you're a contender now, which I consider them still to be, these losing streaks, they bounce back. And, they don't end up being 14-game losing streaks like the Los Angeles Angels endured earlier this year. They get rectified in a hurry, and no better time than to do it on the road against a divisional rival too. But that's really his coaching is keeping me less aggressive, if you will, being on the Padres. But anyway, let's move on to our next segment and our final segment. This is the best bet segment for each of us. And the most exciting and the most difficult, because there are a lot of great betting opportunities out there. For one, I like JD Martinez tonight to hit a double, and that's getting +370 over at FanDuel. And I've already booked that one. But I think I will start out with my best bet, and it's the betting angle of the day. This is the Chicago Cubs against the LA Dodgers. The Dodgers are, I guess they're favored by just an extreme amount, 330, 360, somewhere up there. And rightfully so, because Gonsolin's on the hill. He's 10-0. And I don't think Chicago really has a prayer against this guy. I know that there's a lot of angles out there in my database telling me that you better be careful here taking the Dodgers, because pitchers that are undefeated in the month of July lose. It's inevitable. It's too long a season for somebody to go 30-0. Those days will never happen. But in this matchup here with the Cubs and the Dodgers, I definitely like the under. You're going to bet under in games 80 through 110, so that's a slice of 30 games, basically from the halfway point to roughly 5/8 of the season being over. One of the teams has a starting pitcher that has a 2.70 or lower season-to-date ERA, which Gonsolin does. And that same starter, allowed one or fewer runs and worked 7 or more innings in his previous start, which Gonsolin did, and it seems like he does it every single time out. So over the last 5 seasons, 14-6 to the under, 70% winners. I think it goes to 15-6 tonight. And I'm running hot with the totals. I'm seeing those pretty well. So I hope this is a winning pick for all those that are watching and going to tail me. Let's move over to Eric Pauly and see what his best bet for the show is going to be tonight.
Yeah, so looking at the slate, we're fortunate to have a pretty big evening slate in the MLB. And like I said, John said earlier, Red Sox, Yankees. I mean, that's just enough said right there. But my best bet for the day is going to be on the Mets first 5 run line, -0.5. I got that at -110 earlier today. I actually do have a higher rated play on this game that you can check out at SportsMemo that I'm giving away. I found this play and another one that I absolutely love looking at this Mets-Marlins matchup. Something to keep in mind and why I'm leaning toward this bet is, and you saw it from the Mets this past series against the Reds. Yes, the Mets won the series 2-1, but they looked very bad at points in the series when they were facing a pitcher, particularly younger pitchers that they've never seen before, but they always bounce back the second time. You saw that against Nick Lodolo. You saw that against Graham Ashcraft, and I forgot who, and Hunter Green with the Mets, who they actually got to a little bit. But the other 2 pitchers shut down one of the best lineups in the NL just because the Mets were not familiar with them. So Miami is pitching Daniel Castano tonight. He is 1-1 this season in just 4 starts with the 2.42 ERA, a 4.61 FIP, which means we should be expecting him to regress toward the mean a little bit, that ERA, at a 1.35 whip. He started against the Mets actually pretty recently on 6.26 and allowed just 2 runs over 5 hits on 7 innings in a Marlins win. So that's kind of what I'm saying. The Mets saw him for the first time, did not do too well against him, and now it's coming back to them against the Mets team that has a 727 OPS at home, just a 696 OPS against left-handed pitchers. But Castano, in just 11.2 innings on the road, has an ERA as a FIP of 4.48 and a 1.11 whip, excuse me. Trevor Williams for the Mets, he's not going to really, impress too many people. He's predominantly a reliever, but he's 1-5 on the season with a 4.34 ERA, 1.34 whip. In his last 2 starts, he's allowed 8 runs and 9 hits and just 7.2 innings of work. So the Mets are going to have to kind of rely on more. But this is kind of certainly more of a play on the Mets getting to Castano early, and whether or not the Marlins get to Williams also, which is certainly possible. I think the Mets will still have them beat by 1 run going through the first 5 innings. So I expect this game to, in a couple of facets, for the Mets to cover and for there to be a decent amount of runs scored tonight.
Great stuff. Really great stuff. Let's see what Jesse Schule has for his best bet. And Jesse, this is a show that you and I are not adversaries. We haven't debated anything yet, and it makes me feel pretty good that we're just going to sweep the board with these best bets. So take it away and tell us where you're going.
All right, John. For my best bet, I'm going to go back to that Colorado-Arizona game. And as I mentioned, the Rockies won 2 of 3 in a home series versus Arizona last week. Game 2 of that series saw Austin Gomber start opposite Dallas Keuchel, and the Rockies jumped all over Keuchel, scoring 4 runs in the first inning. The Rockies led 7-2 after 5 innings in that game. Austin Gomber allowed just 2 runs in the first 5 innings, 4 runs overall in that game. Gomber is not a great pitcher. He's going to get hit. He's going to give up some runs. So I'm not banking on him being great, but I'm just doing enough. Interestingly enough, his career record against Arizona is 2-0 with a 4.67 ERA in 4 starts. The Rockies do crush the left-handed pitchers, batting an MLB best 295 against lefties. And Keuchel just continues to struggle. Like I said, they jumped all over him last week, switching venue to another hitter-friendly park in Arizona. I don't think bodes well for Keuchel. As bad as the Rockies are on the road, I don't think Arizona is great at home. I don't think Arizona is a safe haven for a struggling pitcher either. So I expect Keuchel to get rocked again tonight. Rockies' first 5 innings for me.
Well done, Jesse Schule. And I have we made it through a show where we're not betting pizzas or anything. But lastly, my final thought for the show is Joe D'Amico wanted to bet the Yankees against me, right? So he was all enthusiastic, and then I said, "Well, it's minus 160. I'm not going to go head to head, even up. I wasn't born yesterday." So I worked out a deal where if I lose, I owe him 2 pizzas, and I said that they're going to be coming from Boston. All right, I don't, Boston, right? It stands to reason. It's logical. And then if I win, he has to pay my airfare to Vegas for the meet and greet week. And I thought that was pretty fair. Yeah, if the Yankees are as good as he said, then I should at least get a flight out there to hang out with them, right? Anyway, the point of this whole thing is that you definitely want to smash that subscribe button here. We're 24 away from 5,000. And I'm tired of saying it every day that we're this close, this close, this close. So let's make it happen tonight, guys and gals. It only takes a second to get over there, and you'll make us very happy. This will be, if we go through 5,000, we'll be as happy as if the Boston Red Sox tonight destroy those Yankees. I can't wait. I just cannot wait. I'm giving up a round of golf just to be able to watch the Red Sox. Anyway, any final thoughts, Jesse, before I let you go?
CFL tonight. 6-0 my last 6 CFL. Killing it with CFL this year, last 5 years. So check it out. Big game.
And he's a Canadian, if you haven't already figured that out. So he knows the sports of hockey and CFL like nobody else I know. Eric, Pauly, any final thoughts for the show tonight?
Yeah, just have a best bet of the night tonight out on that Mets-Marlins game. So would certainly recommend taking a look at that and also taking a look at your packages for tonight as well as Jesse's CFL picks.
There you go. It's a wrap. So that'll end today's show, the Full Count show for Thursday, July the 7th. We hope you enjoyed it. Leave comments in the comment section in the YouTube channel. And don't forget to subscribe so I don't have to keep saying it every day because I'm getting tired of it. So Jesse Schule, why don't you take us out of here with my 2 favorite thoughts?
Remember, everybody, bet with your head and not over it, and may all the wins be yours.
I love it.